Hi guys, it's Chris with City Your Homestead. So day 4 of what Grandma cooked. I tried to find a recipe online on Pinterest or whatever that was the way that I know my grandmother and my mother made it. And I couldn't find one. So I'll have to write it out for you. The the measurements won't really be there. You just have to add. And that's kind of how it's been all week because it's just how they made it, and they didn't measure either. So I hope you're liking this series that I'm doing. I'm having a really good time with it, and I hope that you do too. So, we are making Grandma's meatloaf today. And I've got 2 pounds of hamburger over there. My grandma never used a baking pan. She only used just her bread pan. It was metal. Grandma didn't cook with anything glass. She thought I was weird the first time I bought a glass pan. And actually, I still have that glass pan. And I bought it when I was like 17 years old, and I think it was at a store called PG&Y or something like that. But she always cooked in those old-fashioned metal pans. And I think in some ways they were bigger. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. All of her cakes, everything. And I know with the cakes, do you guys remember the round ones? The older people, the round ones. And then they had that thing that went around so it would take it off the bottom of the... Yeah. She had one of those too. All of her pan pots, or all of her, pie tins were metal, everything. I just thought about that. I put it on 350, but actually it should be like 375. I have a pan full of potatoes over there. I'm going to start boiling here shortly. Now, when I was peeling the potatoes today, Tom got me into using a vegetable peeler, but I always used my knife, and my grandma would cut it up with her fingers and whatever, and I always did the same thing. So to use a potato peeler seems weird, but it was almost like I could see her sitting there, and like, especially if we're gonna do Christmas dinner or something like that, and she'd just be peeling and peeling and peeling forever. It was crazy. Now if this looks like too much for that pan, I'll get something else out and make a small one because I don't want it to, overflow. Now, all these recipes I was looking at, I put 2 eggs in there, by the way. Like, hardly any of them use crackers. And my grandma always used crackers. She never used, breadcrumbs, anything like that. Maybe she did and I didn't see her. But I always seen my grandma make them with crackers. She would actually put them in a baggie and she'd beat them with her rolling pin. But I don't think you guys want to hear that. Whoops. Then I just spilt some all over my counter. That was really good. Now the good thing about using crackers is if it's not enough, you can always add more. You know what I mean? So then she'd always put some ketchup in there. And now my grandma was a salt and pepper kind of girl. She wasn't that, put a bunch of different stuff in her recipe. She just didn't do that. Actually, my mom didn't either. And that's kind of how I cooked as well. Sometimes there's nothing better than just salt and pepper. Now I'm going to get all that mixed together. Oh, that's nice, and my hamburger's not all the way thawed out yet. That's alright, we'll break it up. It's pretty close, so... I remember today, this morning I was thinking about it, and I remember my grandma would buy like what we'd call a family pack now, and she would just cover it with saran wrap, and she'd cook, you know, recipes from hamburger all week long until the hamburger was done. Now when I get it, because I'm not sure, like it's not like it used to be where, you know, like you'd go to the store and everything was like ground that day. I put mine, and I bought this in a roll actually. So, you know, I put mine in the freezer, I break it down, and then I pull it out the night before, because you don't know how long that meat has been put together. You know what I mean? So I don't want my hamburger, you know, at nearly $4 a pound going bad. I just don't. Because that's just too expensive. I can, you know, it's like when you do these things and there's memories there, you know, you can almost see your mom or your grandma and they're mixing everything together, and, you know, I can remember that, and it brings back a lot of really, really honest to goodness sweet memories. When you'd watch them, you know, preparing that food, you know, I guess you don't think of it back then like you would think of it now, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, back when we were young, did we ever think, like, until death started happening, you know? Like, did we really think, you know what, this might be the last time I watch Grandma make meatloaf? Probably not. And so it's like when you feel those memories come back, those are good memories, because, you know, you did remember basically the last time she made meatloaf for you. Like I say, if it gets too big, I've got some of those little containers, and that will be fine, because Tom will take them to work and love on them like all day long. Yeah, no matter how many people she had coming over, she would always put them in her bread pans. Well, this is going to be perfect, I think. She never ever, like, I spread mine out and put it on a baking pan. She never did that. But I know she stuffed down each side because she wanted it to be beautiful. So just like that. And that way too, let me wash my hands real quick. Now, my hands are clean again. I always put brown sugar with my ketchup. My grandma didn't do that. You know, I think with her being born in 1923, my grandpa was born in 1900, I think that they really learned how to be very, very frugal, and they didn't waste anything. I'm telling you, my grandparents wasted nothing. You didn't see food waste, nothing like that. You didn't see that. So now she just put ketchup along the top, and then she always put a pan below it too, because if it ever overflows with fat, then, you know, the pan below it catches it. You know, my grandma and grandpa, when I was younger, they had, I'm going to start these, but just on low. They had a great big huge garden on the side of the house. And they'd grow tomatoes and cucumbers and just corn and just all kinds of stuff. I don't remember if she grew potatoes, but I think that she did, and onions as well. I think she grew green beans, maybe peas. I don't remember any asparagus, which that's good, because Now, when we lived on a farm, we had a great big huge garden too, you know, and I think she grew strawberries too. But when we were little, well, she did this for, even after we got bigger, she would have this, like, I don't know if it was a gallon, but it was like this cheap, like flexible tub, and it had a handle on it. And everything that was left over, it doesn't matter if it was eggshells or onion skins or, you know, peelings for your potatoes, whatever it happened to be, if there was any, you know, like a little bit left on your plate after you got done eating, all of that went in there. Every bit of it. And you know, believe it or not, even in the summertime, there was never a bunch of flies or anything around it. I don't know how she avoided that, but she would put everything in there, and then after like 2 days, she'd go out and she'd just throw it into the garden. She'd just throw it in there. Like, she didn't make a compost bin, nothing like that. And I think it was because when, you know, they rototillered the garden, it kind of just pushed everything under. So when I say they didn't waste anything, they didn't. Even your leftover dinner, whatever, would go into that little bucket, and it would go to feed their garden. So I was thinking about those things today, you know, like, I call it myself City Girl Homestead because, you know, I have a garden and I like to can and whatever, you know. I don't have animals. Well, I have my kittens, but my kitties. But I don't have animals and stuff like that. But I think it's part of the things that you want to get back to the old ways in some way, you know. And if I had the ability to live out in the country and do that, I would. But I think, honestly, even though they didn't have any animals other than my dog, or their dog, and then they did get a cat, but they were homesteaders even though they weren't out in the country and out in the woods. You know what I mean? They were homesteaders. They canned their food and preserved their food. And my grandma always had a great big huge upright freezer that she kept full. And even as broke as they are. And I'm not sure what else she kept in there. But, you know, she always had something. And I remember her making her own bread. And she never bought store-bought pie crusts or anything like that. She made everything. And actually, it would have been my grandpa's sister. My grandpa was the baby. He was born in 1900. And she used to make homemade fig Newtons. And they called her Granny. And, like, she died when I was, like, 5, maybe 6. I don't know. She is old. Really old. When, you know. But, you would walk into her house, and it always smelt like baked goods. Always. Candies and cookies and breads and rolls and everything else. That woman's house would be like the house you could sit there and gain 10 pounds just by smelling it. And my grandma didn't bake to that extent, but she was one heck of a pie baker, and she would sell them over at Truffin at the auction. Now you can buy Amish pies and stuff because they don't have like a regular little restaurant there anymore. It's not as big a deal as it used to be. But she would sell pies and cakes, and I had her pie recipe for years, and somehow in all the moves, I lost that recipe, and it had her handwriting, and it broke my heart. Not because I lost the recipe, because I lost her handwriting. The recipe would have been great too, but I know that it was from lard. I do know that. But yeah, this week has been great. So far it has been so good, and to remember all those things, and I see your guys' memories, and I'm really glad I did this. I know that this food is like what we would consider comfort food and not healthy food, but you know, honestly, truthfully, other than that ketchup and maybe the crackers, but it's all whole foods. Your onion, you know, your hamburger, I mean, it's processed, but you don't put half a slab of beef in there and cook it. You know, potatoes. I'm going to have Jack go down and get me some vegetables from downstairs that I've canned. You know, honestly, think they were probably healthier back then than they are now, because they didn't have all that junk put in their food. So this is going to cook. I'm going to let it cook for at least 45 minutes to an hour usually. You can use your thermometer. I can tell when it's starting to get done, and I'll take my knife and make a little slit. And if it's still pink inside, it's not done. I've done it there for years and years, and I didn't have a thermometer to check it. So I guess I'm not even sure what hamburger is. I'll have to look that up. Alright, but I'm going to let that cook. And thanks for letting me do this week and next, because it's been great. Alright, hopefully the meatloaf will be done by the time Tom gets home. So we're going to do our potatoes the old-fashioned way again. You know, I already went through a quart of milk this week, and I don't usually go through any. I have a free gallon at Meijer to go pick up. I should go do that this weekend. It seems somebody said that their mom used to dilute the, like, vitamin D milk. My mom and grandma did the same thing. They'd buy that vitamin D milk, and they'd either water it down with powdered milk or with water. It was a good way to save money and still be able to put milk on the table, because we had milk at every meal. But you know, my kids did too. And oh my gosh, with 2 boys, you guys, my kids used to go through so much milk. Oh, it was crazy ridiculous. And I'm going to put some butter in there. And that's something, my grandma never used margarine ever. Even when she died, she never used margarine. And my mom always used it. And I thought it was the best thing till I found out about margarine. And I've used nothing but butter for probably the last 15 years. I'm going to put the pepper in there too. Seems so weird to mash them because I don't do that anymore. I just put out my hand mixer and do it. It seems so weird to do it back the old-fashioned way. But thankfully, I know what they are, how to do it, because that's how I did it my whole life. I wanted to tell you something about this masher. This actually was my grandma's potato masher, by the way, just telling you. I've had it for years, and it was hers. So I do have a few things of hers that I keep around too. So I know it's weird, but like there's a couple of those spoons up there that were my mom's, and I have my grandma's potato masher. I got my mom's nut cruncher thingy, and I finally got rid of 2 of her pans. I know I told Tom, take them while I'm not got my eyes open. Because it was the last few things that I actually had of hers. So I have my home canned green beans and some butter and pepper up in the microwave. And we just got to finish up that meatloaf. She's fatty, but boy does she look good. Hopefully she'll be done here shortly. I'll meet you guys at the table. Well, hi Tom.
Hello.
There's 2 big pieces of meatloaf, green beans, mashed potatoes, and then look over there.
And sour cream and banana cream pie. Oh.
And Tom's cheating, so is Jack. They have sour cream on their potatoes. I have butter.
I'm surprised you didn't put ketchup on yours.
Ketchup on what?
The potatoes.
I don't put ketchup on mashed potatoes. Butter on mashed potatoes. Ketchup on fried potatoes. So how's the old-fashioned meatloaf?
Working.
You can try that piece of pie over there. It's calling your name. Tom, take a bite. Tom, look at Belle. She's really hungry. Don't you dare. How is it, Jack?
Very good.
So how's the pie?
Good.
So everything good?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, we're gonna let him eat. You guys have a blessed night. Be a blessing, and goodbye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Bye, Belle.
Meow.
Look at that look she gave me. Alright, you guys have a wonderful night.